one of the things that I thought about too when I was listening to Recovery and Discovery, which is your EP. If anyone's listening, you should definitely give it a listen.
Yes, please. Please.
And I saw you mention this on another show, but I thought about this before you mentioned it on the show. Was it feels like I'm listening to your diary, and I I always wonder with artists like how much is too much, and do you ever does it feel like you're exposed, right, when you're putting this music out here, something so incredibly personal to you? Is there any hesitation on your part when you're thinking about putting this out into the world, knowing just how deeply this music hits for you?
I feel like that's the job of being an artist. You have to be vulnerable. You have to. It may feel scary, but like you're literally like putting your heart like on the line. And for me, at a very young age, like I accepted that because I started writing songs when I was what, like 8 years old. So I was already like writing in my diary, and I also like there was like an inner acceptance where I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna have to understand that it's not just my story. And with artistry, it's you're putting yourself at risk because some people may not like what you have to say. It's just like being an artist, being a comedian, like telling your like telling your story is it's not easy. It's not easy. And I found it to where now as I've evolved musically, the more vulnerable I am, the more I'm able to relate to others. So it's like there's literally no restraint as far as like what I talk about because I know even if it's just one other person that understands like what I'm going through, like if I can reach that one person, like I feel like I've done my job and just being as vulnerable as possible because it's like when you hold back, sometimes people can tell like okay, like it's not as authentic. And I feel like being an artist and having that vulnerability, like that adds to your authenticity. And there's so many well, I think that's kind of up for debate now because there's certain artists now where like they're just like hopping on a trend or just doing like what's hot, and you don't see the authenticity. Like the authenticity, excuse me, is missing because it's like they're not being their truest selves. So for me, like my job is to be as vulnerable as possible. I feel like I go through these experiences, these these crazy things, just to be able to share like my testimony like with the world because I know there's somebody out there who has gone through what I've gone through. Uh, for example, with Mary J. Blige, she's one of my biggest inspirations. And if she wasn't as transparent on my life, like I think there wouldn't be a lot of women living right now because she was able to be a voice for the voiceless. and and I admire that so much about Mary. And for me, like I wanted to be able to do that with my own music. So and that requires being vulnerable. That requires being transparent, unapologetic, and not being afraid to say like, oh, like what if they think this about me? Like I learned very early on that it doesn't matter. Like for example, now where we're living in this like social media age where, to be honest, like sometimes I get anxiety about things that I post. Like it's weird because in a song I can say whatever I can say whatever I want. But like with a post, I don't know. Like it's different, but I think it also depends on the intention too. Like if my intention is to always just share what's from my heart, and anything otherwise is, it's not gonna hit as hard as what I feel, is the most like intentional and transparent.